Hi, Leslie.
Hi, Dina. Welcome back.
Thank you. We are back. We're excited. I'm excited.
I'm excited too. This is going to be great episodes. So, to get us into the mood, let's talk about you for a second. You graduated in May of 2025. So, if you can think back, I know that's been a really long time.
Feels like forever ago.
When you were juggling all these things, you're juggling graduation and you're juggling your first job search. What was that experience like for you? And what's one thing you wish you had known at that time?
That is a great question. At that time, like thinking back through it now, it feels crazy that, like I was in the middle of school prepping, like still doing research papers and looking for a job. So that was big. I was thinking about questions like what do I want to do? Where do I want to live? And what kind of people do I want to work with? And what was really helpful for me is looking for resources, going to the career center at my school because they were able to help me with my resume and talk. We were able to talk through what kind of where can I see myself and tailor my resume to those job experiences. Because earlier I was just looking like I had like big plans, big dreams, but they were able to help me narrow it down and tailor it to my specific field and industry that I wanted to work with. And that really made me feel more confident about the roles that I was going into. So I think that's one thing that was really helpful for me. So one thing I wish I had known was like to use my resources because they are there and it was like my last time to use them. So
That's
I
true.
would
Take advantage of it while you can.
exactly.
Well, thankfully, your job search led you to us. So we're extremely thankful that your job search worked out the way that it did. And I do remember when you came in to interview, you had so much confidence, but in the sweetest way. Like you just were cheerful and sunny and, just very confident in what you could bring to the team. So whatever you were doing to prep for job search and to get ready for the next step, definitely worked.
Thank you. I'm grateful to be here too. And again, like if you're high school, not high school, if you're a college senior, use your career resource because they're really helpful for you. They have teams hired there to help you.
That's true. And that leads us right into today's topic, preparing for your first job out of college.
In this episode, we are thrilled to have our career services team joining us. Karlisha, our director of career development, and Bithja, our career coach. Karlisha will share the employee's perspective and what they're really looking for, while Bithja will dive into common questions and concerns that she sees with the students that she work with while they're beginning their careers. Welcome, Bithja and Karlisha. We're so excited to have this conversation with you. I think this is a very timely conversation. Bithja, I have a question specifically for you because you work with our scholars, you're working with seniors. From what you're seeing right now, what are graduating seniors most stressed or confused about when it comes to starting their careers?
So, in a recent survey that I have been working on with
Mm-hmm.
graduating seniors, I've been asking them their confidence level on their next steps. And on a scale from 1 to 10, they've been averaging around like a 7.8. And the reason why it's under 10, I believe, is a lot of them are deciding whether they should go to grad school or they're kind of stuck in the process of securing the job or securing any type of experience that's needed for their next steps.
Okay, that makes sense. I mean, I just came from being a senior, so that makes sense because there is a lot of uncertainty there.
Right.
And it's great to have that insight
Yes.
from them.
Yes.
What would you guys say makes a resume stand out today?
I would say that most employers are really looking to see if someone can do the job. They want to know if the work you've done, if the skills and experience you've gained thus far has put you in a position to render the kind of results they're looking for. Every role is posted and available because the company needs someone to solve an issue and render a certain outcome. So if you're able to post or position your resume in a way to say, I've accomplished this because I've done these things, that really stands out to an employer versus just saying, I filed papers, I pushed a pen, to be able to say I've reduced the efficiency of, the supply use in our company by a certain percentage. Those kind of things stick out. But obviously, when you're talking about students, that experience isn't there. So how can you
Right.
highlight your transferable skills? How can you talk about the skills that you've gained through your clubs on campus, through your projects in class, and really show an employer that you have the skills necessary to show up in that way? I think that really stands out.
Right. And to add on to that, like Karlisha said, it really is about tailoring your resume to what the job description is asking. They're looking for something specific, and it's really good to show that you have the skills that they're looking for.
I think that's crucial. I really think that what both of you are saying is so important. I know as an employer, when you are looking for a very specific role and you can tell that people are just applying to every job that is out there because they clearly, just looking at the face of the resume, they clearly don't qualify for that position. You're you're harming yourself, but if you actually did have some skills that maybe you didn't put on the resume or that highlighted in a certain way, it may be at first glance you're thinking that person doesn't qualify. Oh, wait a minute. They've pointed out this but instead I think it just comes across as it's clear you're not really even looking to see what this job is, which means you're not really invested and it's just I'm one job of, hundreds that you're just mass sending out resumes. So I think that's both really good points.
Yeah, I totally agree with both of what you guys were saying because, like, I've just coming from that process myself. I think, like, when you tailor your resume to the job that you're applying for, it makes you even feel a little bit more confident in yourself as an applicant because you know that your skills match and you also know how to present yourself to that employer in a job interview.
Yes.
You can kind of like prepare for that experience specifically.
I
And,
agree.
we were just talking about college seniors. Maybe they don't have experience. I remember just coming from being a senior, I was part of clubs on campus. I had leadership position, but I didn't really think that those experiences could translate into like my resume to position me as like a competitive applicant. So, because you mentioned that, what would you say is really or more important, like the skills, the experience, or how you tell your story? Or maybe I think like it could be a little bit of everything there.
Yeah, it kind of is a little mix. And I like to say it kind of depends on the stage you're in as far as your work history. But when you think about all three of those things, what tends to come to mind, regardless of if you've been working for 20 years or just getting started, you do have to be able to communicate your story and you have to be able to communicate your experiences and skills. So I would just start with telling your story. Because if you're new into the work, in the work world, so to say, you would have to be able to tell your story, what matters to you, why this work is important to you, what skills you have developed and what you hope to apply. But even if you're like seniored and experienced, you definitely want to be able to communicate how your skills, how your experience has been able to render the kind of outcome and results that you've been able to accomplish with other organizations and how you can accomplish it with the one you're currently applying for. So I'll just say if I had to choose between the three, I would say telling your story. But they all do matter. It definitely is a mix of all of them.
Right.
How do you tell a senior, though, who comes to you and says, I have no idea what I want to do? And that doesn't, it's not like, well, that's just somebody who, maybe they majored in something that's just this broad category like communications or liberal arts or whatever, and they don't know what specific field, but that's absolutely not true. I mean, you could have people who major in biology or, political science who are like at the beginning, I'm going to go to law school, and now they have no idea what they want to do. What would you advise them?
Yeah. I would advise them to explore. And when I say that, I mean positioning yourself into opportunities, experiences, relationships, and connections that you're interested in. Because it's through those experiences that you end up finding something that you love. Maybe something that you weren't necessarily thinking you were going for, but it still turns out to be something that changes the trajectory of your career pathway.
I think that's actually really good advice, because that's just like when you tell somebody they're unsure of what they want to major of, or even students who know what they want to be majoring in school, and then they take this random elective class and they fall in love, and they're like, wait a minute, I think I want to change what I'm doing. Right. So I think that's a really great point, a real life point, that, getting out there and getting these experiences and making these connections with people, you never know what that's going to lead to, something that you hadn't even envisioned.
And I think people get caught in the trap of, I have to do this indefinitely, when life is a journey, just like your professional career is a journey. You're going to find yourself committing to one path, and sometimes life circumstances causes you to pivot,
That's true.
And so it's important that students understand that this may be a decision you're making now to pursue a specific type of career or study, so to say, but you can always pivot. You can always gain skills that will help you pivot. You'll gain experiences through exploration, through connections and networking. So like our friends at FAU like to say, Brian says, it's not what you want to do forever, it's what you want to do next. So can you decide the next and then pursue that and allow yourself to continue to explore so that you can see where you'll really land long term.
Love that.
For sure. Thank you guys. I think I should be taking notes, or you guys should be taking notes, because you guys are dropping gems. And I think all of those things were really helpful for me, like throughout my entire college journey, thinking about like coming from not knowing what I want to do, like exploring going like to different events. Maybe it's like a career fair at your school where you can meet different employers or explore different fields, or taking like a random class and finding out that this is something that you may want to pursue. You just want to have put yourself in position where you have experience, and when you build that experience, that will help you figure out what's next, basically.
And I think it's really hard, because I think Karlisha had a really good point where you feel like you're supposed to be following this path. For so long it was, you go to high school, then you're going to go to college, and then you're going to, it never allowed for the independence and the free thought and I don't fit into this traditional path. And I think that it's difficult when, you're told, pick a career that you're going to love, and that's the goal, that you are going to love what you're doing every day. But then what if that career, what you love, is not going to be high paying? And, then there's all this pressure of what you're seeing that other people are making. So there's so many different variables that go into advising somebody as to what's next. But I think that that's such an important point. I think you need to remain flexible. And I think you have to, I think the understanding that everybody's different. And so the path that you're on is going to be different than the path you're on, and that what you think needs to be your path because other people are following it doesn't necessarily mean that is your path.
Right.
And, it's just scary, to go explore and do something different, or something that's, not the norm and off the grid. You're like, I don't want to make a big mistake, but I think that's just inherent. We all are so convinced that, you have to stick on this Right.
Mhm.
So I think that was really good
And
advice.
I totally agree. And like when you choose to maybe like do what's next, and know that it's not something you have to do forever. This is something that you're doing to maybe try it out, and if it doesn't work out, again, like
Yeah.
pivoting is definitely something you can do.
Yep.
I have now I have a question for you, Bija. I know a lot like see if you're a college senior, or if you're applying to jobs, you're applying to different jobs, and you're eagerly waiting to hear back. What would you recommend someone who has applied to jobs and but they haven't heard back yet? Maybe like what can they do to um, increase their chances maybe of getting that position or hearing back from that employer?
My advice would be to follow up with an email. I feel like that's the first way to go, because there's different stages to the job search process, and you do have to allow time for employers to take a look at your application, read over your cover letter if you submitted one, or portfolio. So allowing them to have that time and space to do that, and also respond back to other people who are applying. Um, and if you send an email and probably maybe a week later you still don't hear anything back, I would then just probably see if you find like a phone number on the company's website, or someone that you can contact over the phone to see if they've received your application, and then ask for follow up or next steps regarding that position.
Okay, that is a great point. Do you have anything to add, Curly?
No, I mean, I was just
Mhm.
thinking as Bijou was answering it that the personal touch is almost like a lost art in job search. It's a
Mm.
lost art in the strategy of job search. Having that ability and taking that next step to just make that call, to
Mhm.
send that email. Not everybody is doing that, especially when you have such easy ways, one click apply. It's lost, so to say, for job seekers to actually follow up with employers. And I think they appreciate it. It stands out. So
For sure. And it also demonstrates that you're still interested, because sometimes you're waiting long. I remember applying to an internship. I was waiting like 2 months before I hear back from like that employer. And I was deciding, I sent, like Bija said, I sent an email like telling them I was really interested and this was like my first option. And that really helped to remind them, like it reminded them of me, but it also reminded them that I was still interested, because again, if like they're making that if they're choosing you, they also want to know that like if they choose you, you'll choose them too. And that's also could be a point.
And one last thing that I want to add, just from the employer perspective, is that I think manners is also a lost art. A thank you. You get an interview, you send a thank you. I think what happens is when you don't, the ones that did stand out. Especially if it's like close and you're trying to decide. Obviously, everything else has to be aligned, but I think it just shows, even if you don't mean it, it just shows, your perseverance in looking for the job. Or if the employer reaches out to you and says, we'd like to schedule a second interview, and it's a week and a half has gone by and you haven't responded and I have to reach out again. I'm like, how important is this job to you? Because other people are literally doing this, reaching out. Did you get the resume? So I think that there's just these things that you're saying, like, are simple things that you don't realize, and every employer is different. This is important to me. It may not be important to the employer next to me. But for my job, that's important. So it's just such an easy thing to do.
Right. And like also a follow-up question I have too is like when do you stop like seek if you've done all of these things and you haven't heard back from the employer, when do you know to move on from like maybe it's like it's your dream job and you want it, but like you haven't heard back, when do you know it's like this is time to like pivot?
What would you say, Karlisha?
yeah, I mean, I'm someone that really focuses on layers of communication. So you send that email, but then maybe you follow up with a call. Maybe, I mean, it's a stretch for today's society to go in person, but after you've made that email once or twice and call. I'm a numbers of 3 kind of person. So if you made 3 touch points over a course of time, I think that's enough to say that you made an intentional effort and to, continue pursuing things. And I definitely think you shouldn't stop with your search. If you're actively searching for an opportunity, you definitely should be pursuing more than one opportunity, even if you have a preference. But 3 touch points, 2 emails, maybe, and a call over a week or 2 times span should be a good enough point to say, okay, I've really done my due diligence. I'm going to continue to look and cut my losses.
So, we have been talking about what makes you a strong applicant, a strong candidate. And now in the age of AI, how does an applicant or candidate position themselves or prepare for that in their job search or in that next stage?
Yeah, so I think as far as AI in the context of job search, so many people are using it. There's so many new softwares out now that helps you click really quickly to apply for a million jobs or to update your resume and make it sound really professional and nice. But I think the human touch of it all is so important in telling your story, like we talked about earlier, being able to communicate your experience in a way that AI can't really communicate for you because it's a computer using data and analytics to compute a specific outcome. But when you're interviewing or when you're engaging with the hiring employer on LinkedIn, you're able to kind of tell them, hey, like, nice to meet you. I applied for this role, would love an opportunity. Those human touches still matter because AI is only taking the information humanity provides it. We're still the source of innovation, creativity, and solution. So it's important to continue to use your human elements to make the connections to position yourself for these different opportunities where you're competing against computers and other applicants. So yeah, in
Yeah.
this context of job seeking, that's definitely going to be key.
That is a great point. So if I'm hearing you correctly, is that like we should not be scared that AI is gonna take away our jobs?
No, you shouldn't be. I think the people who decide, and Bijou, you can jump in too. I think the people who decide not to get behind AI are the people that are being left behind. When you choose to say, I don't want anything to do with ChatGPT or Claude, I don't want to hear none of those T's, you really should learn the system, even in the basic extent, because it will really help you be competitive in a market where people are learning these skills and learning how to use these tools. But it won't necessarily replace you because, like I said earlier, humanity is the source of innovation and the knowledge that AI is taking in to compute the answers it does. So as long as you continue to use your innovation, your creativity, that will continue to help you stand out and evolve in a world where now we are working with computers, Bijou, what you
I think to add on to it, something that's crazy about it too is that there are new roles that are being generated because of AI. So if you're not getting behind it, then you're getting left behind. Because there are going to be roles that are going to be created to help manage AI and making sure that it's ethical, the ethical use of AI. There's going to be jobs created around it, so you want to be prepared for that too.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. I think it is important to use that information, that knowledge, and like adapt to this new stage. And I think like every generation has had to adapt to the what do you call it? The technology.
The advancement.
Yeah,
Technology.
the advancement. So
I mean, when you think about it, people, when computers first came out, I'm sure there were people who were like, I'm not ever getting on one of those. Hey, don't. But now your phone is a computer. It's just, I mean, that's just the way of the world. A few years from now, there's going to be something and AI is going to get left behind and it's going to be something completely different that we can't even think of.
Yeah, there's a lot of research and data out there around the job markets completely shifting over the next 10 to 20 years, that there's going to be new positions created, that hundreds of new positions, like Bijou said, that no one's ever heard of or even studied for just because of the technological advancements that are happening. And one thing civilization can do well is evolve.
Yes.
We can evolve
Yes.
and so that's going to be the key, is being a part of the evolution, not letting it kind of pass you by. Yeah.
Great advice.
I think something else that I want to add to that, like Karlisha said, there are going to be jobs that are going to be created that you probably aren't going to go to school for. And I think that's where it becomes important to also focus on industry certifications, because there might be some certifications around these new tools that are going to be used that you want to have under your belt if that's the route you want to take.
That's a great idea.
Absolutely.
That's a great idea. And not a big investment of money nor time
Right.
to get them.
Yep.
That's so true.
Awesome. We're going to shift a little bit. And Karlisha, I want to ask you, so what would you say employers are looking for in an interview beyond the right answers? You know, what would you say they really are? And I get it. Every employer is different, but thank you for listening to College Compass by experts at scholarship.org. Today we covered how to stand out on paper and where to begin. But the real test is when you're face-to-face with an employer. In part 2 of this series, we'll dive into how you ace your interviews, confidently pitch yourself, and ensure the job is a fit for you too.
In the meantime, we would love to hear from you. What questions are you wrestling with in your own college journey right now? Send us your questions and topic ideas. Let's figure this out together. You can learn more or reach out anytime at scholarship.org/podcast. And if you enjoyed this episode, please be sure to subscribe, rate, review, or share it with others who may benefit from the advice. New episodes drop every other Tuesday on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube, or wherever you listen. You can also find us on social media on Instagram, LinkedIn at George Snow Scholarship Fund, and on Facebook, TikTok, and X at Snow Scholarship. We'll see you next time.